Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, and a very, very warm welcome to our viewers on E360 TV. Good afternoon, good morning and good evening to all of our viewers around the world, and especially to our viewers that view on the replay, and a very warm welcome to our viewers that are here live as we're broadcasting streamed live. So my name is Caroline Heward, and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. Our show today is Talking Heads, and I'm an expert presenter in today's topic, which is the psychology of living in autopilot. It's part of the Mind and Body Connection series. Let's begin. I'd like to start with a quote by Bertrand Piccard. He said, "Very often, human beings are living like on autopilot, reacting automatically with what happens. What interests me about the life of an explorer is you are in the unknown. You are out of your habits." Bertrand Piccard. He is also a spiritual explorer. That's what he's really known for, his spiritual exploration as well as his adventures. So what is living in autopilot? I found the term depersonalization disorder, and I thought that is obviously a new medical term that's being used. My term is much more lucid in terms of what it really feels like when we are experiencing it, and I thought that it was good to find out what the medical term is for it. Depersonalization disorder. So what is it? Have you ever felt that you've literally felt cut off, that you feel everything from the neck upwards, that you feel very little underneath? So there's a disconnection of body. There's like a no sensation, no feelings. There's a disconnection with the body, the sensory experience that perhaps you remember when you were a child. Does that sound recognizable to you? If it is, I'm going to explore this as a subject today. This is much more about an exploration rather than an understanding. And so this is very much a transmission today, because many of us are living in autopilot and actually have no idea that that's how we're living. So let's dig down a little bit deeper. Autopilot. Have you ever felt that you're going through the motions without the emotion? Does that resonate? Going through the motions without the emotion. It means that you're kind of doing things in an autopilot fashion, like in a habit rather than a feeling. Rather than being in a sensory experience, you're living in an experience of doing rather than feeling from a sensory place of experiencing what you're doing. So you're doing rather than being. So you're in a doing mode and not experiencing your being. I want to look at What causes the fact that you would live in autopilot? Many times in life, things happen. We might have had a change in work, a change in our relationships. There might be a bereavement. It might be a breakup of a friendship. It might be that things didn't quite work out in terms of your expectations within your career, within your working life, and within your exams, within your academia. It might be that you moved home, countries, towns, cities. It might be that you started off life in a challenging situation. It could be, especially in today's world, that there was a change in your country. So you came from a country that was in a war-torn country, like Syria, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran. It could be that you've come from somewhere like Northern Ireland, that the Troubles, that's what they're known as, they were always in troubles. So there was people living in a high state of survival and alert. And when something like that happens, I actually spoke to somebody very recently this week who wanted to book a session with me, and we looked at the very fact of what was creating his, as he put it, he didn't feel life, and he got to a point that he was experiencing no life and he wanted it to change. He wasn't experiencing what he wanted to experience in terms of his living. And the way that he was describing it, he said, I think from what I've read from you that you can help me. And I said, yes, I can. And so I went through this exploration of him being detached, desensitized, and asked him, what was actually happening for him when he started to feel like that. And he was able to pinpoint that, I think it was 10 years previously, he had moved countries, and he had moved from Northern Ireland to London. And I said, well, that would do it. and he was really quite surprised, because it was a very quick exploration. And the reason for that is, being in Northern Ireland, where he had grown up in the Troubles, and moving to London, he would have relaxed from the perspective of living in survival. He would have relaxed to the point that the body could feel again. And in that feeling, he didn't feel safe, because he had spent most of his life in Northern Ireland, where the Troubles had recently begun before he had moved. So what am I getting at here? What happens is, when we are feeling unsafe, when we feel that we may get hurt, the body is a pure self-defense mechanism. And what it does is it shuts down the feelings and emotions to protect you. And it's not something you decide, it's not something you think about, it's not something you choose. The body naturally protects you, because this is the way that it functions. And it protects you by shutting down the feelings and emotions. And when you shut down the feelings and emotions, the escape route is your mind. And so then you go thinking, analysing, talking through your experiences, rather than experiencing from a sensory experience. So the kinds of things that can cause it are things like a move, a difficult move, a divorce, a relationship breakdown, where you are feeling insecure about feeling unsafe. So you will handle logical, physical, practical things, because in our Western society and Western culture, we've got to do that. There is no way that we can't deal with that stuff in our society. But what happens when we do that and we shut down the feelings and emotions? We don't feel anymore. And sometimes that can happen when we're very young. Sometimes that can happen decades before we realize. And sometimes people work out that they can't survive or stay living in the way that they're living anymore. And this can come out for some people in a midlife crisis, or they're in a relationship that they just feel they can't take it anymore. And whatever it is that's shifted, it's like an awareness, an insight that shifts, that says, I can't do this anymore. And that's when the person reaches out to say, how do I stop this? Because this isn't living. And that's absolutely right. It's not living, it's existing. You are literally existing in your mind, whether you're in a state of anxiety, stress, depression, or in a highly alert state of getting things done, of having tons of lists and tons of crossing out things, of keeping the mind and the body so busy that you don't have time to literally be. We are living here as a human being rather than a human doing. But when you're on autopilot, you will experience a living doing rather than being. So how do you break free from living in autopilot? Because this will be familiar for so many people. This will be understood in terms of you get up, you go to work, you work all the things that you have to do, and then you come home and you get showered and changed, have dinner, go to bed, you get up, you go to work. And I've had a number of conversations in recent weeks with friends, family, and also with people that have called and made inquiries. And it seems to be a common conversation that many people feel that they're just on autopilot. And admittedly, many of the people that I've spoken to are at least in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. They're not in their 20s or in their teenage years. They're actually much older. And so what is this that they're experiencing? It's like you step into a space of awareness. And this is key, because when you step into the state of awareness, it's at that point that you can change things. It's at that point when you step into a state of awareness of the fact that you are not happy in being in this non-functional or non-feeling state of dysfunction. It's almost like being in a prison cell. And the secret I'm going to share with you right now, today, here, in this moment, is that you have the key to unlock your prison cell. Because if you put yourself in the prison cell and you have the key, you can break out of your own prison cell. This is your personal confinement, so you don't feel, so you don't get hurt. How can you break free from living in autopilot? By literally using the key and opening the door. And the rest follows. It's feeling safe to open the gate and feel again. And it's important that you have that awareness that you do have the key, you have the control, and you have the responsibility. No one can break you out of your prison cell. Only you can do that. People can help you. They can give you insights, understanding, and awareness. And that's what this transmission is about today. This is about stepping into a state of awareness. Do you feel that disconnection? Because if you do, that's the first step to moving out and breaking free from living in autopilot. If you are living in that prison cell, you absolutely have the key to break free. So breaking free from living in autopilot. Let's give you some examples and some ways that you can change and feel again. When you're living in autopilot, there's less sensory experience and more what you think, talk, and analyze about, and what you converse about. So rather than being in an experience, you will be thinking through an experience rather than feeling from a sensory capacity. And so the first step is to move into a sensory experience. Now, there are 5 senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? And what do you feel? And the feel isn't, I feel sadness, loneliness, heartache. Those are feelings of mind. The feel is, how does the sun fall on my face? How does the wind feel in my hair? How does the water feel in the shower on my back? How does the flower smell? How does that taste? How does my food taste? Does it need more salt? Does it need more pepper? Does it need a little bit of chili? Or does it taste yummy? Sensory feel. When you look at a child, they are moving and living through their sensories. They never say, I will think about that. They will generally look at something, they will taste something and say, oh, don't like that. Or they'll say, oh, that's too salty, or that's too sweet, or I don't like that, or that's hot, that's cold. They're very sensory. They don't think. They don't work out their answers. They are immediately responding. And when you are in autopilot, this will give the mind an opportunity to think before it speaks, because the autopilot wants to be right, wants to make sure that you are answering in a way that's correct so you don't get hurt. It's a defense mechanism. When you're sensory, you will respond immediately. And you will save a hell of a lot of energy when you're in a sensory experience, because you feel in the moment that you're experiencing, rather than thinking about what you should say. You'll be responding immediately. Journaling is a really, really good way of coming out of autopilot, because when you journal, when you actually write down what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and writing, just journaling is literally where at the end of your day, when you just write, you literally write whatever comes through your pen at the point of writing, rather than thinking about it. And I remember doing a lot of journaling when I was going through my marriage, which was very unhappy. And I actually found that journal while I was in my training. I found it in my unpacking, and I started to look through it. And I was writing the same thing almost every day, and I was clearly very unhappy. But one of the things that I didn't appreciate is that in writing it down, it literally let it go. It's a way of processing when you journal. So when you write stuff down, it comes out of your head, out of your being, onto paper, so that you can let go when you are journaling. Root cause therapy. This is what I focus on and what my speciality is. Root cause therapy is looking at your specific blueprint. It's what makes up how you respond, your behaviours. We are our behaviours when we are experiencing life. But when we are in a place of recognition and awareness, this is when we can shake out of the behaviour and start being and living in a sensory and exploring adventurous experience. This is what the young child does. They are in a sensory experience. They are present. They are in the very moment of the very second, of the very millisecond that they are in, and they are responding from that millisecond of that time that you ask them something. If they smell chocolate, they want it. If they want to go out and jump in the puddles because it looks fun, they don't think about they're going to get wet. They don't think that they'll have to go and get their wellies on. They don't think about putting their rain mac on. They just want to go out there and feel and splosh in the puddles. But as an adult, we think about all those things. We need to put outer gear on so that we don't get wet, so we don't muddy our clothes, so we don't do things that will cause an extra job. And so if you're unsure of what living in a sensory experience is, look at children, look at the way they play, look at what they say. There is no sensory interjection in terms of what they should and shouldn't do. They want it, and they will find 1,000 ways to ask you for something they want. And so looking at your blueprint, looking at the root cause, what moved you to shut down your feelings and emotions is specific, it's direct, and it's to the point. And this is what I do, looking at your specific blueprint of what caused your personal shutdown. And when I find that, and when you become aware of your personal shutdown, this is when you step into a place of insight, awareness, understanding, and more importantly, you start to shake free from the chains that trapped you into living in autopilot. Because when you become aware of what shut down your feelings and emotions, this is when you begin to feel again. This is when the emotions will become freer. And this is where you begin to live again. It's no good saying, oh, I'm going to exercise because then I'll feel better. I'm going to do some meditation. I did speak to somebody this week and they were talking about the fact that they'd done lots of different courses, lots of different training, and had done lots of different types of meditation. And yet he was still living in a space of autopilot. And that is because he hadn't looked at why. What caused the shutdown is the first step to breaking free from living in autopilot. And when you step into that state of awareness, and it might be something that you will know but kind of forgot about. It might be something you know and didn't think about, or it'd be something that you just pushed down because it was so old and you're not there in that space anymore. But the fact that the feelings and emotions were not released, and there is no right or wrong way about releasing those emotions and feelings. There is only your way. And when you become in a state of insight and awareness, something changes and you move from being in autopilot to being your true, authentic beingness. We are here as a human being to experience in a sensory way. We are here to be rather than to do. We are here to experience life in a way that's right for us to experience, from a sensory way. If you've forgotten, look at the children. See how they respond to things. And this is how the true, authentic way to be and to live is. Meditation, there are many forms of meditation. One of the easiest ones is to step into your state of sensory experiences. What do you see, hear, smell, taste, feel? And when you step into the experiences of the sensories, there is no room for the mind to get in. And you become calmer, freer, and you become more peaceful. Here's one of my very favourite monks, Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Vietnamese Zen monk, and he has recently passed over. And I felt that this sums up exactly what I'm talking about. We need to wake up from autopilot mode. We have to live deeply and with more awareness so that we can be attentive to each moment. Enlightenment, peace, and joy will not be granted by someone else. The well is within us. Thich Nhat Hanh. He spoke a lot about the very fact that we can be in a sensory place and not in our mind. And he was one of the amazing monks that brought mindfulness to the West. Thank you for your attention and your interest. Please subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio. You can find all of our talking episodes under the playlist Talking Heads for this year, 2023, and for last year, 2022. You'll find all my personal talking heads under my name, Caroline Heward. Please do reach out to me if I may be of service to you. You can contact me on email, nomorestress@live.co.uk, or call me on +44 if you're international, 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. I look forward to helping you bust your stress. I offer an initial free 30-minute consultation. It will be my absolute pleasure to help you begin your journey to busting through living in autopilot. Namaste.